Hi, this is Lada from Astrolada.com, and today I want to talk about the north node of the moon, Rahu, which in Western astrology has a very good reputation. It's known as a point or as a point in the horoscope that gives you material results, that rewards you, that enhances and grows whatever you have. But actually, there is a darker side to Rahu, which ancient Vedic astrology knew about, and I want to present this one to you and to make you look within a little bit more, because our Western civilization is very Rahuish, Rahuvian. This is the name of the north node of the moon according to Vedic astrology. It's called Rahu, and this is also the name of demons. Many demons in Buddhism and the Eastern cultures are called Rahu. And you see why I'm saying that. And Western civilization is very, I wouldn't say demonic, but is very Rahu influenced, because Rahu is about obtaining goals no matter what the price and no matter what the sacrifice, and jumping from one level to another without going through the necessary step, one by one, basically like an elevator from one social position to another. It's also the American dream, achieving one from being in one social class and then say middle class and then becoming in the 0.1% of millionaires. This is the American dream, to get privileges, to rise way above your social position, so social mobility. But we're gonna look at how Rahu can actually be the reason of our big downfall and the reason for a lot of pain in life. And I'm gonna explain to you what Rahu is. Rahu is it's in Western astrology, it's the north node of the moon is indicated by this sign. In Vedic astrology, it's called Rahu. And this is basically the point where the ecliptic of the moon crosses the ecliptic of the sun, going northwards. This is the north pole, north node of the moon. And there is a south node of the moon, but this time we're not talking about it. It's called Ketu. But the north node of the moon, uh, it's not a planet, it's a point. But in ancient astrology, it's more powerful even than the other seven visible planets, including the sun and the moon, because only Rahu can eclipse and hide the light of the sun of the moon, because Rahu is the point when it aligns with the sun and the moon, eclipses are caused. So it's known in ancient mythology as a dragon that swallows the sun, or a dragon that swallows the moon. And basically, the sun and the moon, they create the life on earth. The sun is the center of our solar system. The moon regulates the life on earth, so it extinguishes life. It can hide the light and the truth, Rahu. And I'm gonna tell you what basically the ancient mythology of Rahu and Ketu is. Well, the gods created the juice of immortality. Actually, Rahu and Ketu, together with the gods, Rahu and Ketu were one demon. It was one being, a demonic being that helped. It was a dragon, basically, a dragon, and the head is Rahu, the tail is Ketu. And they used that demon, that dragon, to churn the oceans to create the juice of immortality. And when the juice of immortality was ready, it was meant just for the gods, because they're meant to be immortal. But dragon Rahu decided to pretend that he was also a god, so he posed, he tricked them, and he drank that juice of immortality, and he became immortal. But the sun and the moon said that to the high god, and he cut Rahu in two. That's why now we have the tail of Rahu, which is Ketu, and the mouth of Rahu, and the dragon's head, basically Rahu. And that's why, as a revenge, Rahu swallows the sun and the moon in eclipses occasionally every year, and they're bitter enemies. So Rahu is bitter enemies to the givers of life. But what does it tell us about Rahu? This very telling mythological description is that Rahu, wherever it is in our horoscope, can indicate areas where we can be tricksters, where we can trick others, basically where we can be dishonest, because they pretended, Rahu, the demon, pretended to be a god in order to drink from the juice of immortality. So dishonesty, that's another point of Rahu, where it's situated in the horoscope. It can also indicate pretending, a poser. He was a poser. So whatever Rahu is in your horoscope, you can be a poser there in your life, but also you attract posers because what we give off, we receive. For example, Rahu in the seventh house, you can pretend you love someone just so you can have the privileges of that marriage or the privileges of that person. That's one example of how Rahu in the seventh can play out. And at the same time, you can also attract people and partners that are using you for something, for their own goal. We'll go through the different houses quickly after that, but I just want to tell you what it symbolizes. Or, for example, Rahu in the fifth house is someone who can, fifth house is children, someone who can pose as a parent of someone. And when I was thinking about that, I said probably the guy that wanted to adopt the child of Nicole Smith, that was coming with a huge inheritance, who said he was the father, he must have Rahu in the fifth house. And of course, I checked the horoscope and it was true. He had Rahu in the fifth house because he pretended he was fighting for the right to have that child because of egoistic purposes. Because Rahu is selfish. Rahu wants something for itself. It doesn't care. Gods are immortal because their incentives, according to ancient mythology and beliefs, are to help the whole of humanity. But Rahu wanted to become immortal just for its own selfish purposes and reasons. So it posed, it was dishonest, it lied. So any means, Rahu, wherever it's in the horoscope, we can use any means to achieve a goal of some sort, but this is usually a selfish goal that just has the purpose of giving us more power, more privileges. So Rahu looks for privilege, whatever it is in the horoscope. But privilege which he hasn't deserved yet. Because to become a god, you need to go millions of years of evolution or whatever, to gain that, that right to be in the circles of those higher class that Rahu wanted to be. In the same way, if you want to be a CEO of a company, you have to start from the bottom. This is the rightful way, Saturnian way, step by step. But someone who has Rahu in the 10th house, for example, of career, they can suddenly rise from one status of being, for example, a mediocre manager or middle ground manager, all of a sudden becoming a CEO or something, or appropriating leadership abilities that are way above one's head. So we'll speak about each of those aspects, but it's looking for privileges which it hasn't grown yet enough, and pretends that it has the knowledge, and it pretends like it has the understanding and that it deserves. So it acts overly confident. Overconfident. It kind of has the attitude of fake it till you make it, just like basically Rahu faked he was a god, and he made it, he became immortal. And so there is this mentality, fake it till you make it. And of course it can give a lot of success in the world. We'll see about that. Someone can, so many people that pretend to be something they're not, and others believe them because they sound so confident. They might be teachers, they might be gurus, they might be anyone, it's any field of life. And eventually, they're taken for what they are, but usually there is a dramatic fall when they get discovered. Just like when Rahu was discovered, this was not the truth. And of course, there are some very extreme cases, like someone who pretended to be a doctor, and because he so craved to be of this part, to be of this part of society, to be a doctor, basically, that he got discovered that he had no credentials. That's very, that's fraud. Rahu is connected to fraud. And this fraud and this dishonesty and this posing comes from a very strong desire, absolutely strong desire. Fake it till make it. Very ambitious. And very desirous. And actually, Rahu rules the reptilian brain in the human body. The reptilian brain is the one that strives just to, that is the selfish part that strives for survival. This is mine, let me grab it, let me take it. It's a taker, it's a grabber, just so it has the needs of the body satisfied or whatever. This is the desire part. This is where addictions happen. This is where we act when we act from that part, and it grows, of course, the reptilian brain. This is where the loops of pleasure, sensory satisfaction is, where it's all about satisfying our personal desires without thought of anyone else. And you know, when a person gets, and that's why Rahu is addiction, because it is desire, addiction. It is desire, it is addiction, it's obsession. So addiction, obsession, it has very strong desire like the reptilian mind. And when we don't have control over the Rahu position of our house, of our horoscope, we can become totally out of control in that area of our life. We can lose our head, just like Rahu did. And initially, it always becomes that we get a lot from that area of our life because there is passion. You're obsessed about that area of life. You can get a lot, but sooner or later you get found out and you fall down. And there is like a dramatic rise and dramatic fall that very often happen. But Rahu is so ambitious that it dusts itself off and gets up again and tries over and over and over in that area of life. And usually there is success. That's why we love it in the West. We love where Rahu is, because if it's, for example, in the 10th house, a person is so ambitious for power, to be a leader, to be publicly recognized, which is what the 10th house is, for example, that even if they jump a few hoops and suddenly rise to a position of power, even before they're ready, and they fall from it after that, they'll keep trying and trying and trying till they make it. So they keep trying over and over, and eventually they make it. And eventually, especially when a person stops trying to use these honest ways that are posing, ways that are, which is the darker side of Rahu, which are tricky, fraudulent ways, or even immoral. Rahu is immoral. It just wants to experience what it wants to experience, the reptilian brain, It doesn't care how it gets its drug. It doesn't care how it gets its desires, only it gets it. So whatever we have Rahu in the horoscope, we are much more tempted to act according to the principle. That's not a principle. According to the goal excuses the means. So just to reach the goal, any means necessary, which is immoral in its nature as well. It might not be. You can do it in the right mode. That's why the position of Rahu in the horoscope so much depends where your level of consciousness you are. People more evolved, more spiritual, that look within, that self-analyze themselves. Am I doing this from a selfish reason? Am I doing this for the greater good of everyone? Am I just looking at my own needs? People that are much more spiritual, much more kinder and evolved, they can use Rahu for amazing things. They can achieve, because it's a generator of passion and desire. But those are people that have control over their desires and control over their reptilian mind. And they use that desire, this passion, this fire, to help in that area, to grow something new, because Rahu is also breaks old molds, breaks the established rules and traditions. And when used correctly, this can be great, because Rahu is a force of progress. That is on the higher level. Usually after you mature, you start using Rahu correctly after your 42nd year onwards. This is the maturation year of Rahu. Or sometimes even not then. Some people always stay with the low vibration of Rahu, but they learn a little bit more to use less and less, more and more moral means rather than anything, just to reach the goal. But initially we make a lot of mistakes with Rahu, because we don't have this moral filter there, because it's so ravenous. Our passions and desires, they overpower us. For example, Rahu in the second house might be about food, because second house, what we put in the body. Such people can be addicted to food, or can have some food imbalances, or be obsessed with food in some way, can make food their god, whether in the healthy sense, sense where they're counting every calorie, or whether in the unhealthy sense that they're eating junk food, because Rahu means rules poisonous things as well. Poison and foreign things, something that does not belong there. Something that it disturbs the system in some way. So the second house, they can be obsession for food, or obsession with money, or let me get the money. Second house is material stability. Maybe someone who wants very quickly to make money, so they invest their money in some get rich quick scheme, and there is sudden fall as well, or they create some get rich quick scheme, in the extreme case like the Madoffs or something. um, as I said, there are so many different scales that Rahu can play on depending on the level of the consciousness of a person. Someone who already has low moral boundaries, with Saturn, for example, because Saturn makes us keep the law and the rules. Someone who already has witnessed a lot around their life, immoral behavior, and they think it's okay. They would use Rahu, unfortunately, to its more evil means, to its darker side. But people that are working on themselves, they can use Rahu for its foreign energy, its passionate energy, its obsessive energy, to create something good there, to break the mold, to introduce something progressive, something. And because Rahu also rules the scientific progress in ancient astrology, because it breaks the mold and the traditions, and it's it stole from the gods. And in this, like the juice of immortality, in the same way, Rahu in a more evolved person can be used to steal knowledge from the gods and usually, again, break the mold or uplift the whole of humanity. But usually the motives of Rahu are selfish, they're immature, let's say. Not Let's not judge it so harshly, because Rahu, and Western astrology knows that Rahu is area of life where we haven't had experiences in previous incarnations. So we're kind of it's almost like a bit of an innocence. You don't know about rules, and you haven't, for example, you haven't done much, say Rahu in the uh, uh, let's say in what house it is, in the 11th house. You haven't had friendships, you haven't focused much on uh, belonging to groups and society, and it was just not part of your experience. And you come in this lifetime, and there is almost like a kind of innocence, and you don't know how to behave in such uh, things, and you think everything is allowed. If you had some karma that you created with groups, and you've suffered the repercussions of that, for example, in a past lifetime, if you had experiences with friends and you hurt someone and then you were hurt back, you already have experience, you already know how to behave with friends. So in order for you to keep friendships, or to have social influence on others, to be accepted and liked truly. But when Rahu is there, you experiment. Rahu is experimentation, and because you're gonna experience this for the first time, and in this set of experience. And because of that, like, everything is allowed, let's say. But because of that, sooner or later there is repercussions for everything, and our actions come back. So you with age, only Rahu we can. And older people, they have more control over their reptilian mind, over their passions, over their desires, in most cases. Some people never do. And hopefully with age and with time, the house where Rahu is, yes, we can get a lot there, but we usually do it in a way that is not the most moral, or that is not the most honest, or that is not the clever. It's tricky and clever. It's where we can be extremely charismatic there to get what we want, just like Rahu was. But it's and once we get it, though, it's because what's the purpose of Rahu? Is, first of all, we have to experience everything in this lifetime in order for us to stop wanting to incarnate here. If you've in a number of incarnations you've been poor, you crave to be rich, or you so might even crave to experience what it is to be a criminal. You so might crave to experience what it is to be anything, but usually Rahu craves for something better, for something more privileged, and for the good things, and especially the things that entice you into the material plane. So that's why Rahu is also Maya, illusion, because it gives you the things It gives you the things that keep you anchored and attached to this earthly, to keep coming back into the earthly planet. So when it gives you, say, Rahu, in the ninth house, can give you privileges because you look as very knowledgeable teacher, for example, and you get recognition for your ego for that. Or Rahu in the fifth house can give you like a lot of experiences through celebrity and fame, Or Rahu in the fourth house can give you beautiful homes and lands and vehicles. So yes, that keeps you anchored into the material, especially when if you develop the obsession of Rahu. But if you're a more highly developed person, Rahu will just give you the experience of those things without entrapping you. But usually even the more spiritually experienced people, they can slip there. They can get obsessed. They can get too attached. But with age, again, this detachment, we learn to get a bit more detached there. Uh, and whatever Rahu is in the horoscope, basically, we always want more and more. We're insatiable, but the purpose of Rahu is because you have not experienced that, it wants to give it to you so you experience it. And once you have it, you're like, okay, I achieved this power. Or, okay, I got, if Rahu in the seventh house, I really want to be with this person. I'll do anything. But they're married for someone else. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna be with them. It's like you, uh, no matter what, and you achieve that person, and you get your lover. They divorce and they're with you, and then you're like, there is always, once you achieve the position of the house of Rahu, once you achieve it, there is this feeling to, and now what? Or like Rahu in the 11th house, I want so much profits. I need profits in this lifetime. And you want to experience it. The 11th house is gains. Rahu in the 11th house often become quite rich, because this is part of what they have to experience, the karma they have to create in this lifetime, uh, the experiences they have to create. And if they did it in a legal way, if they were not tempted, because Rahu is temptation again. Temptation. Temptation. If you're not tempted to do it in the illegal way or to do it in the immoral way, you'll keep that. If you've done it in not so honest way, not so legal, and once you achieve it, though, the ultimate goal of Rahu is like, okay, I have all this wealth now. If, say, Rahu in the 11th house, so all this, this beautiful house I wanted, or this partner, depending which house Rahu is in, or I got this. You know, Rahu in the ninth can crave world travel, or Rahu in the 12th can crave secret relationships and dealings, or Rahu in the 8th can crave to be part of a secret organization, to crave other people's resources, and you achieve it and you're like, okay, I'm still not happy. I don't understand. I've always wanted that and I got to experience it. And then this process of detachment starts, and you start thinking that no matter what you get, and Rahu is ravenous, it has no body, it just eats, 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 and that's how addictions can form. So usually less younger people or people that don't work on themselves much, wherever Rahu is, they'll keep getting more and more and more. And even when they lose everything, because Rahu has this, when it gets caught and find out, it loses everything. Then it starts all over again and tries over and over and over. It craves those privileges of that house. It craves those material results. Rahu is material, the material rewards of that house. It craves the financial, the material, the privileges, the recognition there, the ego affirming qualities of that house. The Rahu in the 7, it craves the approval of others. It's whatever the house it is, and and it can turn into addiction. Addiction, what happens? You're satisfied for a little bit, and then you need the next hit and the next hit, and your life becomes like a hamster cycle. And that's what brings you more into the Maya, into the illusion, and keeps you anchored to the physical incarnation, into this obsession. But at one moment, usually, with maturity after the age of 42, or usually, if person works hard on themselves with awareness, you have to stop that cycle. Otherwise, the cycle of self-distraction, whatever it is, it might not be with substances like Rahu in the sixth house might crave, because sixth house is self-medication, so they can crave more and more of that. For example, even in the first house, putting poisonous things in your body, just like Charlie Sheen has Rahu in the first house, and he's known for using substances and things. and to feel strong, because the first house is I want to feel strong and I want to feel like I'm the best, and usually it's uppers. Rahu likes uppers of any sort, you know. Ketu likes downers, to be dissociated and spaced out, but that's another topic. And wherever Rahu is, or we can get this kind of obsessive, addictive behavior until we stop the cycle, with willpower, with self-observation, and then we can use that. But the Rahu will always be hungry. Whatever it is, it will always be hungry. So if you stop feeding that addiction, you can use that hunger of Rahu, this passion, this desire, to create something better, something new, something progressive with that, to break molds, to help society and the world by you breaking the mold there, but in the right moral way, rather than in the moral way, to see and to show people that it is possible. For example, people with Rahu in the 10th house are not all of them are power hungry and ambition hungry. Maybe they started like that, but they achieve high positions of society in society, and usually they break the mold in some way. For example, like a female CEO in a company when there is not a single female CEO. Because the positive side of Rahu is break the molds, because the Rakshasas, or the demonic beings in Vedic mythology, or in all actually cultures, they're not only bad, they're there because the demonic, they're known as the demonic to be much more progressive, while the angelic, they're very traditional, the angelic beings. They do everything according to, to the rules, while the demonic ones, they introduce the innovation, they introduce the progress, so to speak. So whatever you can use, the ultimate goal of Rahu is to transform it from self-obsessive, egoic focus on yourself and on to uplift your own ego and to receive applause for yourself, because this is what Rahu, just wanted the juice of immortality for itself, to transform it into doing the things of that house, to break a mold and show others that it is possible to rise above your station of birth, that you're not set in this social status, and that you can do it through your passion and through passion and through desire and single-minded focus. But very often, what is the problem with Rahu is that we get tempted. Rahu is the tempter, the temper, the temptress. Rahu is the temptress, and Rahu is basically the snake, that gave the apple to Eve. Even in the Bible, the snake Rahu is a reptilian. And if you believe in conspiracies and things like that, you know about the reptilian race. This is nothing else than those astral beings that actually influence our reptile brain, and they're not physical entities. They can manifest those, and these are the demons, the Luciferic demons of the ancient books, the Rakshasas, the Rahu root. Even in Vedic astrology, Rahu is the king of the Nagas, which is the reptilians. Well, the reptilians, those are our passions, our desires, but actually they exist like separate entities for those who are into the occult, and and they influence especially our reptilian brain through increasing our passions and desires. This is the nature of Lucifer, basically. And I know some of you say, "Oh, Lucifer was Venus called in the morning," when it's but actually the Luciferic in Christianity is the temper, is the one that tempts. Just like Eve was tempted with the apple, and of course that brought eventually progress, because thanks to Eve eating the apple, it broke the will of God, and we started developing as individual humans that are not like the angels that do whatever, that have free will. So those Rakshasas and Rahu, the demon, introduced, and the Luciferic beings, basically they're the same, the demonic beings, the Luciferic beings, the reptilian beings, they introduce desire, individual desire, that makes us take actions that are different of free will, different than the divine will. And Rahu, whatever it is, allows you to separate from the path of righteousness or the path of Dharma. Dharma is the Dharma, what we call, is the right path, the right actions. The right actions are always in alignment with divine will. Uh, and Rahu gives us the ability, just like it gave to Eve when it gave her the apple, but they were thrown out of heaven because all of a sudden we could not understand what's the will of God. So now we have free will, but it's the ability uh, to choose different than what is God's will, and so Rahu is tempting us away from our dharma. Dharma is the right action, the right living. So Rahu is this temptress, is this Luciferian energy, is no whatever you call it, that wants to entice us, that wants to seduce us, and to use ways that are immoral, just to get the apple, just to achieve what you want. It's okay to do it. And you, whatever Rahu is in your horoscope, you try to give yourself justifications, logical. For example, Rahu in the seventh house, you crave, your passions are very strong towards someone sexually because this is the seventh house, always craving a new partner, craving a different partner, and you have already a good husband or a wife, and you're like, you keep looking there and you're like, I want that, but it's not moral, but this is the Temperance Rahu. And are you going to succumb to it or no? You have a choice. You can start cheating, and then you're taken away from your dharma. You use your free will, of course. You're taken away from your dharma, from the righteous path, and you're gonna suffer. You created new karma. That's why Rahu is where we create new karma. And you created new karma, you have to experience it one day on you again. So you would attract the same in your life. Maybe not even in next lifetime. Now evolution is sped up. So in this lifetime, whatever you do that is immoral or fraudulent or kind of dishonest or too selfish to another, it will be returned to you from another person, maybe not the same, but another. So you would attract partners that are dishonest or immoral in some way, that are doing the same to you. But if you decide to stick, even though you feel this temptation, like I really want this person, like I'm sexually attracted to them, Rahu in the seventh house, I'm tempted, but you stay your course, then Rahu will still, because Rahu wants to manifest materially, it will manifest to you in another way. It can bring you a lot of partners, material business partners, for example, who help you unfold your business, who help you, who bring material things to you. Or that's another way you can act with Rahu. Instead of choosing to move away from your dharma, the righteous path of action, you can choose to, okay, I'm going to break first my relationship. So it's in an honest way. Of course, you're going to disturb again the tradition. Rahu does that. And I'm going to go and be with this person. Okay, so rather than do it secretly and immorally. And then if you're in a very unhappy marriage, for example, and then Rahu in the second house can do it, and then you can have a lasting marriage after that. If you do it immorally, if you do it not in the right way, misleading someone, whatever house Rahu it is, there is usually a dramatic fall. Just like when someone gets found out they're cheating, or when someone gets found out they don't have the credentials to be in these high positions, so they're way over their head. Or I knew another person with Rahu in the first house. It was a big case in the UK that they pretended to be someone they're not. First house is your personality and identity. She so craved to be African American, and she was a Swedish woman that she painted. She should have suntan, curl her hair very, as if it's African American hair, and people thought she was like half, half, and that she has an African American, and she was teacher, professor of African American history. It's crazy. That's Rahu in the first house, someone who appropriates another identity. Rahu in the seventh can appropriate another's husband or wife. And if you have, and the ultimate goal with Rahu is to use your ability to control your passions and desires, not to succumb to that temptation. You will succumb initially. Usually, when especially younger souls, or when they're younger in this physical body, we do, even as young people, we do silly mistakes because we don't have so much awareness of the repercussions. And we can mislead their people. We can go, for example, Rahu in the seventh house can be with others because of what the other can bring to them, or because false love. They can confuse lust for love. Or Rahu in the fifth house can be with lovers just so they can receive some privileges. Or Rahu in the eighth house can be with someone so can have access to their finances and resources, so that someone can support them, and we have to learn to be truthful to ourselves where Rahu is, and to learn to choose the uh, dharmic path of righteousness, and to do it, and we can still get a lot of privileges there. Rahu wants to give us whatever it is, but to do it in the right way. Usually we'll do a few, 2 or 3 times mistake, we'll slip over there, we'll do some mistakes, we'll do the wrong things, the immoral thing. uh, don't beat yourself up. Rahu will again get up and try to do it again. Do it next time in a more lawful way, without hurting people so much, without being so selfish. So each time it's a bit less of selfishness, and each time, and then you can achieve a lot through that Rahu's house. You can be given a lot, because the ultimate goal of Rahu is to give you everything that you have not experienced in that area of your house, of your life. And to give you a lot of it, so you get satiated, so next time you don't have this desire in your next incarnation, so it can even get exhausted in this lifetime. For example, Rahu in the sixth house can be really want to have a lot of servants, people in their house that clean their car, their whatever, lots of employees, can be hungry for power to have employees. That's one manifestation of Rahu in the sixth house. There are very different ones. I speak about those in my 12 houses. So for in-depth of each house, check out my 12 houses webinars. I'm selling it for 50%, for $15 off now. For those of you who are watching that video, Secrets of the 12th House, it's about 60 hours of very structured webinar. Not like what I'm talking here. Each planet in houses, but I speak particularly in Rahu through each house. But so Rahu in the sixth house might desire a lot of, like, let's say I want people to serve me in this lifetime, and it's, if it's and it can get it, you will get it. Where in the sixth house, you'll get lots of employees or something like that, and how you treat them determines whether you can keep that or no, or whether there will be some big fall. And when there is a big fall, you dust yourself again and you go again for it. That's the thing with Rahu. It does not give up. But the next time you do it in a better way. If you keep doing the same mistake, you'll keep falling, you keep reaching heights like Rahu always does, and then crashing down, reaching heights, crashing down. For example, getting employees and then they're all leaving you, or doing things that if you don't treat them right, they'll do trickery to you as well. They'll do things that are dishonest to you as well. They can talk bad behind you as well, and they can ruin your reputation. And each time, and once, because you have passion for that, but once you learn to do it in the more, to have more control there, to have more, whatever house Rahu is in, and to be as honest as possible to the people represented to that house, they will return the same to you. For example, Rahu in the third house can indicate dishonesty or trickery between siblings sometimes. It depends. Sometimes it can be a very different thing. It can be just someone who is very, who can trick people with words. It can be someone who can, for example, who can be dishonest with what they talk and what they say, but it can play out in a much higher vibration. Someone who is a fantastic marketer and salesperson, who can use the words in a way to kind of present an idea better, and they can, this benefits, of course, unless you're lying again to a client and you're just telling them something that you don't believe in them as well. But you can be fantastic marketer, advertiser that uses imageries and words, or Rahu with Mercury, for example. So you have to learn to use this Rahu. It's craftiness, it's cleverness, because Rahu is crafty and clever. It's progressive thinking, breaking molds, to introduce new things, to not just for selfish reasons, and to be as honest as possible with those people in your life. So yes, this is such an interesting topic, basically. And Rahu is poisons as well. Wherever it goes, you can have this body organ in your body more poisoned, because you're keeping up something there, or because poisons basically go to that organ. For example, Rahu in the seventh house, they can be more poisoning of your kidneys. Rahu in the I don't know what house, in the third house, the lungs of some sort. So it's very fascinating, the position of Rahu. We have to be careful because this is where we can slip. This is where we can become dishonest. Let me give you an example. Rahu with the moon can indicate emotional dishonesty, and this can be misleading for yourself, because this is someone, and Rahu amplifies the feeling. Wherever it goes, it amplifies. Someone who will be emotionally very expressive, but it can indicate um, that you are dishonest with your feelings. Basically, you might feel upset currently and that someone hurt your feelings. And instead of saying, listen, you hurt my feelings, you might emotionally show very different reaction. You might start shouting at them or throwing plates, or you might, for example, call them names, and you're being dishonest emotionally because your first true feeling is that you're being hurt. Or you might pretend nothing happened. Like I have moon with Rahu, and I used to be emotionally dishonest. I would not be honest about what I feel and if I'm hurt or something. And I was dishonest with myself as well. And it creates problems, of course. It creates, you're not your true self again. You become a poser of some sort. Um, People with moon, with sun, with Rahu, uh, they can be dishonest with themselves even about what their true mission here in career is. They can be doing a job or vocation, which is the sun, a career that is not truthfully their own, that they're taken away from their dharma, the right path that will give them true happiness, by doing a career that was imposed on them, maybe because it gives them privileges, it gives them power, and that they'll do a career that is not what truly their soul desires, but it's what will give them power. That's what will give them recognition and prestige. And they get, wherever Rahu, it's very strong Rahu people, they're fascinating. Rahu makes you fascinating. Rahu makes you exotic looking, makes you progressive, makes you very interesting. People are fascinated with such people. Look at Donald Trump's sun conjunct the Rahu. Look at Charlie Sheen. They're very controversial people as well. uh, Maybe I'm not giving the best examples. There are others that are super charismatic. I mean, that are extremely uh, and they're more likable characters in most cases, and they're fascinating characters overall because Rahu exudes confidence. People with a strong Rahu, say Rahu conjunct the ascendant, conjunct moon, or conjunct sun, are always such one that actually are overly confident. They can look more confident than they actually are. And that's attractive to the masses. Well, people with a strong Ketu, like Ketu on the ascendant, Ketu on the sun, with the moon, they're humble, or they look. The lesser manifestation is that they look very insecure, that they hide. They don't want to be in the light. They hide, or the best manifestation of Ketu is makes a humble person. uh, well, Rahu makes the opposite. Look at me, I'm the best. It's like the it's confidence, but that's kind of a bit even artificial, over amplified confidence. It's like the lights of Las Vegas rather than the true sun. And again, it's extremely charismatic. Who doesn't love Las Vegas, even though it's not true sun and light? But it's sparkly, it's mesmerizing. So Rahu people can be just, if they're working a little bit on the lower grades, they can be deceptive, they can be trickery, they can lie, just to get their means. They can be opportunistic. That's the best word I can use for Rahu. Opportunistic. So basically, they see an opportunity and they go after it no matter what. For example, oh, Rahu in the seventh house, I'm gonna get this guy likes me. I'm not really into them, but I'm gonna marry them. I have Rahu in the seventh, so I think I was not good to partners before. I was very sweet and nice to them, but I'll stay with them so I'm not lonely. That's not truthfulness, or because oh, his family really loves me. Oh, he has a really good job, so he's stable. It's good for me to stay. That's not, and usually whatever Rahu is, you 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 get into higher social status because of that. Like you can marry up with the seventh house, but you can be opportunistic, use people, but because you do it, others will do it to you. it will get reflected. And if you don't want, others will take advantage of you as a partner, business partner, or relationship partner, and just use you and throw you away. Or Rahu in the second house can see an opportunity for money, making quick buck or something, and can go there. And if they have not deserved that, they can suddenly make lots of money, but suddenly lose them again as well. Or they can just become immoral in the for money, or in the 11th house for gain. So with friends, or with Rahu in the 11th house, you might be like, I need to be friends with this person because they can help me meet that other person, or because they can help me get into that, to get that job or something. They can bring me that business opportunity. This is fantastic. You're going to be very rich with Rahu in the 11th usually, because you make the right connections opportunistically. But then again, you don't have enough truthful friends. And then again, others will also use you for their, you know, uh, reasons. Or Rahu in the 11, in the 12th house, you can be very, have crave, because Rahu craves and desires passionately some private relationship, some secret bet, hidden relationships, because 12th house is about private secret relationships that are enemy to the marriage. And you can actually, I know people with Rahu in the 11th house, in the 12th house, that were able to elevate their financial state and prestige by being lovers, secret lovers of someone, or by doing secret dealings with someone, or with dealings in foreign countries. But they're, if and the thing is, if you don't violate moral rules, you can make a lot through whatever Rahu is. You still will make, even without it. You see, there are a lot of immoral people that that make money and get higher prestige, not in the moral way, but sooner or later there is a fall from grace, and then you try again, but there's a lot of suffering connected with that. So Rahu will still give you whatever it is. It will give you, but if you learn to be less selfish, if you learn to do things in a more, to use that passion to create something progressive, to create something, to break the mold there, and to be as an example of that. So that's what I wanted to tell you guys, and again, Rahu, I know people that use their Rahu in a fantastic way, and I know, and even a lot of them, they started first by making a lot of mistakes and things they're ashamed of, and that it's a learning curve with Rahu. This is the most, I would say, the most important position in a horoscope is Rahu and Ketu, and we'll make another video about Ketu as well, how it plays out. But when I look at the horoscope, I can just talk for hours and hours for Rahu and Ketu, because the most interesting events, and the most difficult events, and the most fascinating, and the most exciting stories in life, and the most stories that, from pauper to millionaire, from here to there, sudden rise and falls, are connected to Rahu and Ketu as well. But I hope that video gave you a bit of a understanding how to navigate this Rahu. And yes, it's gonna tempt you. Yes, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, and stupid mistakes, and immoral sometimes, uh, rash, in the rush of passion and desire, and obsessive actions. But there is a way to break out of it, and hopefully that gives you a realization where you can slip. Whatever Rahu is in your horoscope, especially what planet is Rahu is with. For example, Rahu with Venus can feel very tempted all the time about relationships, or can feel very tempted to present their beauty in a way that is not really done, through a lot of operations, to do something that escalates them to a higher level of beauty or prestige that is not the most authentic, which is nothing bad in having, surgeries to enhance your beauty as well, um, but there are other ways that, like that you basically keep, using relationships, for example, or opportunistic relationships, and of course this will happen to you as well, that you're being used in relationships, or Rahu in, or that you use women, for example, or it can play different ways. I'm not going to go through all the planets. It's just going to take forever. But you can check out my course on the 12 houses, Secrets of the 12 Houses. I speak about the Rahu position in each one of them, and what you have to be careful about, and where you can slip, and where you can have basically a diversion from the righteous path. But even this diversion, if you've done it, is part of what you have to experience, because you have to satiate those desires that you have there. And once they're satiated, or once you've suffered enough, you'll come back to the righteous path. There is, once you've fallen from grace or something, you come back, and again the passions will arise again to achieve there. You try again, this time hopefully with more experience and more, and you'd create better karma, you'd create better future rather than the previous mistakes. So there is this danger of slipping down on the wrong paths, whatever Rahu is, and attracting people that seduce you, whatever people is indicated by the planet Rahu is with, or the house Rahu is, that those are the people that seduce you from your right path, like Rahu in the 11th, your friends, Rahu in the 3rd, your colleagues or siblings, or Rahu in the 4th, it might be your mom, like a mom that's very materialistic or very hungry for to get you into a certain situation in life, so this can kind of entice you. So anyway, I'm not going to go further into that, but hopefully that was useful for you. And it's very hard to be honest with yourself, which is that less desirable side of you. But you have to, if you're on the path of growth, and if you're on the path of achieving true happiness, and on the path of liberation from the suffering, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. When you wake up, are you being honest? Do you wake up and you get excited how you can help others, what you can do for others, or are you waking up and just start thinking about your own needs? This is the selfish side of Rahu. And what area in your life are you most selfish, or you're just most ravenous for power, for recognition, just for the sake of those, not so they can contribute and help someone else, or can contribute and make the world a better place. And most of our motivations are quite petty and quite reptilian in nature, let's say. It's just a natural process. More and more children are being born that they have a higher motivation, that they just want to do everything from um, for the better good of everyone. And they also have Rahu somewhere in the horoscope. This is a position where you can be used by others, by because Rahu, if it's any kind of a predatory influence. Rahu is predatory, opportunistic, where whatever Rahu house it is, people symbolize what their house can be opportunistic or predatory towards yourself. So we always have lessons to learn, you know and we have to learn to be more not we have to learn to be more straightforward with such people, and in such situations. But anyway, thank you so much, and hope that was beneficial in some way, and that's gonna make you take a deeper look at yourself and be more honest with who you are, and where is it that you feel tempted, what it is your weakness. You already know that, but when you check out astrologically, and if you know what each house means, someone can be tempted to do criminal deeds, or someone can be tempted to constantly accuse others. That can be Rahu in the 6th house. Passion and upgrade of your own ego by putting others down. There are different ways in each house that Rahu can manifest, and that can you know that can inflame your ego, that can make you take power, that can strengthen your ego, and make you manifest a lot materially and actually gain, but by violating certain spiritual laws, for example. But anyways, take a deep self-analysis to see, and check your Rahu position, and if you know the houses in depth, you'd see that it corresponds. For me, I personally have a moral, my Rahu is in the 7th house towards partners, and you have to learn to be with age, as I said, as honest as possible, and to receive the same back. And then Rahu, whatever house it is in, will give you a lot without taking it away from you after that. So be as honest as possible to the people symbolized by whatever house. And if you want to know what each house means and what each planet in those houses mean, check out my Secrets of the 12 Houses webinar, which is $50 off now. Thank you so much.